Hey folks, this is Brother Nero here. Thanks for joining us for this virtual outreach. Hi Julia, how you doing? Julia is joining me here. How are you doing, Julia? Are you there? Hello?
Doing okay. Sorry, my keyboard shortcuts for my microphone weren't working. I am doing quite well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. So, we already have some viewers. It's pretty good. We're doing pretty good to have viewers right from the start. I think that's the first time. I'm kind of excited
absolutely.
about that.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. So let me just go ahead and jump into it here. This is our basically bi-weekly kind of like beginner orientation to Shadow Path Diabolism. We go over some of the basically the same questions every 2 weeks. The most common questions about Shadow Path Diabolism, about Devil's Mark Ministries, that sort of thing. And at the end, we answer specific questions from people. So if you have any specific questions, please feel free to leave them at the end. Go ahead and start making comments now, and we'll answer them at the end. So we'll just get into it. Hey, Marie, how you doing? Anyway, so let's get started. So what is diabolism? I guess that's the first question we normally answer. Diabolism is basically a general term that means the religious worship of devils or the devil, or working with the devil and having some kind of devotional reverence for him. So that's specifically what it means. And the reason we chose to use that as a term for our particular tradition is it makes it very simple for people to understand what we're about. We're about worshiping the devil or devils and demons. And that's the most important thing that you need to know about that term. You want to go ahead with the next one, Julia?
Sure. So the next question that we usually go through and that we're going to go through tonight is, what is Shadow Path Diabolism? That is the tradition that Devil's Mark Ministries follows, the tradition that was established by Brother Nero in 2021, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
And we follow a approach that's very, very much medieval devil worship, traditional witchcraft, not necessarily getting into the modern Satanism and the ideas that are kind of part and parcel of Satanism today. We kind of wanted to do things a little bit differently. And so that's a basic rundown of what it is.
Yeah, it's basically a combination of traditional witchcraft, medieval devil worship, and paganism. And we kind of, more often than not, when we practice and what we do is low magic, or at least most of what we do is low magic or folk magic, although we do use ceremonial magic. But when we do, it's rare. And when we do, we adapt it to fit our tradition. We would never call on the God of the Abrahamic religious traditions, for example. We would never command demons. We ask demons to assist us, and we ask them with respect and stuff like that. So we would never use typical things you would see in the grimoires. So if we were going to use Goetia, for example, or Ars Goetia, let's say it properly, Ars Goetia, we would adapt the prayers and the invocations for work with demons. Now, so that's basically what it is. We try to go back to more traditional methods of magic and of ritual practice that were pre-Christian in nature, and we try to honor the gods through pre-Christian styled rituals. And we focus more on praise and worship and devotion than we do on magic. We are first and foremost a religious organization, and even though we are a LLC, we function very much in the way a traditional church would function. So we have, kind of our priesthood. We just appointed our priesthood. By the way, congratulations to Julia Blair for being our acting priestess, high priestess, and to Marie Ravensoul for being one of our priestesses. They were appointed just this week. The reason we say they're acting priestesses is because we have a rule here in Devil's Mark Ministries that we do not give people their titles until they've had ordination and they've completed all the required academic work. So they're always going to be acting until they've fulfilled all the requirements. We take it very seriously that whatever we ask our members to do, everyone in the priesthood has to have done it as well and completed the exams and completed the academic work as well as the spiritual work. So we never ask our members to do anything that we ourselves have not done. So if we ask them to write, a 3,000 word essay, then I can guarantee you the priesthood has written a 3,000 word essay on the very same subject. We ask them to pass an exam that says they know certain demons or whatever, then we would make sure that the priesthood obviously has done that and successfully completed that material. We think it's very important to practice what you preach and live by your own standards. So we make sure that the priesthood lives up to whatever we ask our members to live up to and more, if that makes sense. Okay. I guess the next thing I want to bring up too, just for anybody who might be curious, we've just recently opened up our membership to virtual membership. So if you're interested in maybe joining Devil's Mark Ministries, I would really recommend that you go ahead and fill out a membership application if you have not done so already. And we're going to be starting a chapter in Liverpool, which is going to be headed by Julia Blair. And eventually, Marie Ravenslow is going to be starting a chapter in Toronto, but she's not going to be doing that for a while because she has 2 books that she's working on. And so she doesn't feel like she can give it the time it deserves while she's working on her 2 books. So we're kind of waiting for her to get closer to being finished so she can start doing her chapter work. So, but she will be doing that at some point. So I just want to congratulate you 2 for being elected as high priest and priestess. And I want to thank you for offering your services to the ministry, because without you, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of this stuff that we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. It's important to me. It's important to me to sort of just work with the community, honestly.
Yeah. So you want to go to the next question?
Sure. So next question on the list are, who are the demonic gods? And I think we would describe that mostly the demonic gods are the spirits, sometimes including, sometimes not including Satan, depending on the context. The demonic spirits associated with Satan, associated with Satanism. Some of them are associated also with pagan gods, but it's generally just the term that we use specifically to refer to the infernal spirits, gods of Satanism. Nero, I'm sure you can answer that better than I have.
The term demonic gods was used in place of demons because we felt like the term demons doesn't really reflect the respect that the demons deserved, and we feel like they're gods in their own right, and we worship them as gods in their own right. We in our pantheon, we regard Satan as the chief deity, the head of them all, but they're all gods in their own right and deserve respect. So that's what we do. We try to give them respects as gods in their own right, and so we choose to call them the demonic gods rather than demons, because we don't feel like it adequately expresses the respect that they're owed for who they are, if that makes sense. Hope that answers the question. Okay, next.
Next question is, do you worship evil? The question that I'm sure every Satanist has gotten at some point, and the short answer is no. 99% of Satanists will say they do not worship evil, or while some may sort of say that darkness is a part of their practice, it's not necessarily the cartoon type of evil that you would usually see horror movie Satanists be represented with. Satanism is more about free will, more about worldly living rather than spiritual purity. For theistic Satanists and Diabolists, about worshipping demonic gods. And that is not necessarily tied in with the Christian concept of evil, except in that Christianity considers things like sex and polycotton to be evil. So, but no, Satanists as a whole do not worship evil, and the ones that do tend to be the small fringe cults that tend to make up the minority.
Yeah, it depends on how you define evil. If you define evil by Christian standards, I suppose people could consider us evil, because we don't see life as sinful, or we don't see indulging in fleshly pursuits or material pursuits as evil. And one of the things we always tell people is, we we regard Satan as a god of the material and the spiritual world. We regard him as a god of knowledge and wisdom. And in order to, this is just my opinion, of course, and this is something I really want to say here, because one of the things we will never do, or we try not to do in Devil's Mark Ministries, is we don't speak in absolutes, because we don't believe that there's one true way to do Satanism. There's one true way to do, certain types of magic. It's a lot of people in the occult community speak in absolutes, like, I know this is the absolute truth. This is true Satanism. We don't speak like that. This is just our way. But anyway, we believe that in order to have a full experience of Satanism, you have to both work with one foot in the material world and one foot in the spirit world. And you have to have that balance. That's why we call it the shadow path. We don't believe that Satanism is either right-hand path or left-hand path. It's a combination of both. And you're constantly working with, as in voodoo, they say, you do work with both hands, the right and the left hand. And in order to have a balanced spiritual life, you have to work in the material world and the spirit world. So let's take, for example, let's say you wanted to be successful. I don't know, you wanted to get a new job or something. So a shadow path diabolist would prepare themselves, do all the stuff they need to do to be prepared for that interview, have their resume ready, prepare for the interview, but they would also do, I don't know, some kind of candle magic or something to help them along, to ask Satan to open doors for them and maybe guide them in the direction they want to go, or make the manager more amenable to them, or whatever the case may be. So they would prepare themselves in the material world, but they would also do the spiritual work, prepare themselves, if that makes sense. So that's how we see it. And that's true magic, and that's true Satanism. You have to have your life together in the material world and in the spirit world. You need to be the best you can be in both ways. And the whole idea of Satanism is, our form of Satanism, shadow path diabolism, is you'll use whatever tools makes you successful, whatever tools helps you be the best Satanist or diabolist you can be. And if that means going to get extra training and doing magic and meditation to strengthen yourself and strengthen your willpower, then that's what you'll do, and there's nothing wrong with that. And voodoo practitioners and more serious practitioners of magic understand this. A lot of people that are new to magic and things will say, oh, all I have to do is do my candle spell, or all I have to do is do my my ritual that I have to do, and then they'll expect for success to come. That's not how it works. You have to work on every level to prepare yourself to be the best you can be, and that's what we encourage. That's why our motto is discipline, devotion, and self-mastery. The self-mastery is that personal development aspect, goal setting, trying to be the best you can be. And that's the other thing I want to make clear about this, is you're not competing with anybody else. You're competing with yourself. We want you to be the best person you can be for yourself and for Satan. If you improve yourself for yourself, if you go and get more education than you have, you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping yourself be a better Satanist for Satan. You're a better instrument for him to use for his will by educating yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a win-win situation. I think that's very important to state. So I don't know if I've ever said that before, but I think it's important to talk about. Anyway, I kind of got sidetracked, but can you go to the next question, Julia?
Yes, of course. So the next question on our list is one that we have gotten a lot of outreaches, actually. What are your policies regarding children? Basically, people usually ask this in a way of, are children allowed within rituals, or are they mostly, do you baptize children into the religion, or do you pledge children to the religion when they're born? And for us, absolutely not. We believe, as part of the personal sovereignty concept, that children need to choose their own path. We believe Satanism is not something you can get forced into. It's something that you need to choose. And so while it's okay to teach your children about the religion. You shouldn't be making commitments for them. You shouldn't be baptizing them when that might not be their path in life. And so we don't do that. And we also don't include anyone who's under 18 in serious ritual spaces where, obviously children might not find it appropriate.
Yeah, I would add a couple of things to that. Now there are parents who decide to include their children in ritual, and I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but as an organization, just for appearance sake as well. If a parent decides to have their children be involved in ritual, that's up to them. But as an organization, it's such a sensitive subject, and we don't want to give the appearance of doing anything inappropriate. So as an organization, we would never allow children to be involved in a public ceremony just because somebody may accuse us of something. And it's it's probably better not to have children at events, unless they were specifically designed for children. Like for example, let's say maybe a Halloween carnival for kids, like some of our members or something. We might do something like that, but we'd try to keep the religious aspect out of it, the ritual aspect anyway. And that kind of thing. But because there are people that do decide to expose their children to Satanism, we're going to have a section in the newsletter again for parents that need advice on things like that. So we're looking for somebody to write for that section that has some advice about dealing with children if you do choose to expose your children to shadow path diabolism. But as a general rule, we don't believe Satan will accept anybody that's not old enough to understand the concept of free will. As a matter of fact, he will not accept their pact. That's been my experience. So when people ask us, they'll say, well, can you baptize my child into Satanism? No, we can't baptize your child into Satanism because they're not old enough to understand the concept of free will and choose to worship Satan of their own free will. So he won't accept them. But we can actually ask for his protection. So we could do that for you, but we're not going to baptize an underage child into Satanism. But I want to say something, just to add a little something to that. Every person that I know that is serious about Satanism that was called has been called at a young age. Like I don't know what age Marie was called at, but I was called to Satanism when I was 12 years old. I've known people that have been called at the age of 7. So it happens, and if that happens to the child, that's between them and Satan. But generally, it doesn't happen like that. So it's a rare case, I think, for a lot of people. So, but anyway, just going back to the point, we will not baptize a child into Satanism. We will not allow children to be involved. If parents want to do that on their private time, that's between them and Satan and their children. But we can't, as an organization, be involved in something like that because the negative ramifications could be bad, because you could have somebody falsely accuse you of something, indoctrinating children or something like that. And it's just better to stay away from that kind of stuff. So that's what we generally do. All right. I hope that answers the question. I rambled again.
It's okay. We appreciate it. Okay, I'll go on to the next question then. So the next question that we have on the list is, isn't this just reverse Christianity? Isn't it sort of just a taking the mickey at Christianity and mocking their beliefs and just rebellion for rebellion's sake? And the answer to that obviously is no. While some people who come to Satanism out of Christianity might find things like black masses and blasphemy useful to kind of cleanse themselves of their past associations, we consider it a religion in its own right. It's not just an offshoot of Christianity. It's not just there because Christianity exists. It's not just supposed to be an inversion of Christianity. It's an individual relationship between a Satanist and Satan, and it has nothing to do with, well, for the most part, for some people it might, but for Shadow Path Diabolism, it has nothing to do with perverting Christianity specifically.
No, I think when people are young and they're new to Satanism, they have to get all that, childhood angst out, and they have to, if they were raised in a Christian household or they were forced to go to church, a lot of people feel the need to cleanse themselves by engaging in blasphemy, and that's perfectly fine, and it's understandable, and in some cases it's highly recommended, because sometimes that's the only way people can let it go. But if your only interest in Satanism is to rebel against Christianity, then you're not really worshiping Satan. You're just anti-Christian, and that's not a Satanist. I'm sorry, that's not a diabolist. Um, at some point, your Satanism has to be its own thing. It has to stand on its own 2 feet. You have to have your own holidays, your own observances, your own traditions, and you have to have your own customs. And if you don't have that, then you don't have a religion. You just have somebody who's rebelling against Christianity. And if that's your thing, it's okay. But that's not what this ministry is about. We want to create our own culture, our own community, our own traditions, and we want a living, breathing tradition where people actually care about Satan and the demons and are devoted to them for their own sake. Not only do we want to do that because we love and respect the demons and the demonic gods, but we want to do it because that's what they deserve. They don't get the respect they deserve. They don't get the reverence they deserve. And in my opinion, the whole reason I started this ministry, when I was 12 years old, I swore to Satan that one day when I was an adult, I would make sure that there was at least one organization where he was given the reverence he deserved, and was given the reverence that was at least as much, if not more, than the reverence that the Christians would give to their God. And I swore to him that I would do that when I was 12. And that's what this ministry is. It's a fulfillment of that promise. And I'm committed to that idea. And I'm committed to it no matter what anybody else has to say about it. And I'm committed to making this happen if it's the last thing I do on this earth. And that's what I promised him I would do. And I intend to keep that promise. I mean, that's what I'm trying to tell people. I say to people, you can join a lot of organizations, you can join anybody you want. But I find it very, very hard to find people who are serious, that really mean what they say. It's very difficult to find people like that. And that's what I am. I'm not into the whole, rebelling against Christianity for Christianity's sake. I'm not into I'm here for my own ego and I want power and I want to be some kind of cult leader. All I care about is worshiping Satan. That's it. And being around people who worship Satan and want to give him the respect he deserves. And that's what I committed to, and that's what I'm going to do. Period. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, and just to let people know, I saw Maria had posted a topic for discussion at the end in the comments, and just letting people know, if you're watching, if you have questions or comments that you would like us to address at the end, we'll go through this pre-written list of questions that we go through every week or every couple of weeks, and then we will take to the chat for questions. So just post everything there that you'd like to say, and we'll get to it at the very end. Next question on the list is Path Diabolism a form of paganism? Which depends largely on your definition of paganism, but I would say yes, if you consider paganism to be a polytheistic religion that is based in the worldly as well as the spiritual, that takes elements of pre-Christian religion, witchcraft, basically sort of stuff that is non-Abrahamic, and sometimes for some involves magic and occultism, then yes, I'd say that paganism is a pretty accurate definition of Path Diabolism, although I think a lot of people in the pagan community might take exception with that with that description.
Well, for us, Satan is also Carnunus. Satan is also Pan. Satan to us is Set, in our opinion. And again, this is just our opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody agrees with us, but so we consider Satan a pagan god. So of course we would do pagan, have a pagan approach to it. And we're trying to get away from Christian influence as much as we can. However, that's almost impossible because it's so ubiquitous. It's so Christianity is so influential on almost every form of magic, on every form of religion. The monotheistic religions are so influential; it's almost impossible to get away from. I mean, even some of the names of the demons are Christian based. Obviously, a lot of them are, and so you can't get away from it entirely, but we try to get away from it as much as possible. For example, we don't use Kabbalah. We don't use Hebrew as a general rule in our tradition. We use Norse runes and stuff like that, the Elder Plutarch, and we use other things, but we don't use Hebrew and we don't use Kabbalah, and we try to stay away from Jewish mysticism, for example. So that's just what we try to do. Go ahead for the next one.
Okay, yep. So next question on the list is my favorite is, aren't satanic religions just cults? And no, basically. There are some that I'm sure you could describe as satanic cults. There are satanic groups that show cult-like behavior, which, you know, controlling their members' behavior, making members dependent on the group, and punishing dissent. But those types of principles of submitting to the group, punishing dissent, basically taking away individuality, are antithetical to satanic principles. So if anyone's over here telling you that these people are going to take away all your rights because they're satanic, no, that's not correct. I would go as far as to say that any group that seeks that control, it would not be considered satanic when it comes right down to it.
Yeah. One of the things I want to say is that about cult-like behavior is, you know, if somebody's trying to take away your free will and tell you that you have to do something to comply with the group, you know, that's when you need to get worried. But one of my favorite sayings that I think is the most appropriate is, it's not how a group treats you when you join that makes them a cult. It's how they treat you when you try to leave that determines whether a group is a cult or not. Because if they say to you, you know, if you say you want to leave and you leave and they don't give you a problem about it, then you know it's not a cult. If they tell you, oh, if you leave, you know, you're excommunicated from the religion, you're not one of us, you're not a true believer, whatever. If they talk like that, then there's a problem, you know. And I think that's very important to point out. So, but there are a lot of groups that are becoming cult-like. There's a lot of groups that are starting in Satanism that are starting to behave like monotheistic cults. I mean, they really are. And I get really worried about it because you see these people who go, well, this cult leader said that they have the answer to this. And it's like, no. If somebody tells you they're the be all and end all and they have all the answers, run as far away as you can, because if anybody tells you they have all the secrets and they have all the answers, they're full of shit. Okay. I told you that because it's true. And I've been involved in satanic groups that started to devolve into cults. And I left them. And I got other people to leave them because I told them what they're teaching you is not satanic. So I know a little bit about the subject. And it's one of the reasons why I established Devil's Mark Ministries as well, is to make sure that people didn't have to deal with that shit, because it's not satanic. You should have the free will to leave at any time you want to. You shouldn't have people trying to take your personal autonomy, and you shouldn't have people trying to, and let me tell you something else. If they try to get you to give your money to them, I mean, like, you know, pay for their bills and stuff like that, or like, you know, buy houses and put it in your name and stuff like that for them, watch out. I'm telling you. And you say, nobody would ever do that. Nobody would ever sign for a property for some cult leader they met on the internet. Oh, yes, they will. I've seen it myself. So I know it happens. So trust me on that, okay? I'm speaking from experience here. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and the thing, it's one more thing I want to add to that. The thing you need to watch out for with groups that have cult dynamics, even within Satanism, is that cults prey on people who are looking for answers, who are looking for guidance, who feel lonely and disenfranchised. And I think for the majority of diabolists and Satanists, that's something that we can all relate to an extent. And the thing about cult leaders is they have these really strong personalities. They have these really strong visions. They're generally really good at expressing it and taking control of any given situation. And that's very attractive if you feel vulnerable. And the thing is, then they use that to manipulate you. So you can avoid a lot of that just by keeping a good head on your shoulders and looking at the people you are getting involved with and going, all right, you know, is this actually beneficial for me, or are some of these things giving me a bad vibe? and you'll avoid a lot of bad situations with just a little bit of common sense.
Yeah, that's true.
The next question on the list is one that I think you got on Core at one point, which is, what is it like to be a Satanist? Which is just such a broad question. You could go on about it for hours, and I suppose it really depends on who you ask. It's for someone, I think, well, for me, when I first sort of started learning about Satanism, it just felt right. It felt like home. So it felt like it clicked in a way that no other sort of spiritual path or spiritual identity I'd explored ever had. And it clicked in a way that I didn't know it could. So apart from all the nonsense associated with the satanic community and the inviting and the people who are less than savory in their public reputations, I think for me, what it's like is to feel secure and safe in a place that I feel spiritually connected to.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would say too is that it's a hard religion to follow. I mean, if you're, because you get bullshit from all sides. I mean, you get the atheistic Satanists that'll sit there and tell you you're not a Satanist. You'll get the Christians who will tell you you're going to go to hell. You get the Thelemites or the ceremonial magicians who will tell you you're not a real magician because you're a Satanist, and real magicians and real occultists don't worship Satan or believe in Satan or whatever. And so you get it from all sides. So you have to have experiences or have to have some reason to hold on to your faith. I mean, and that's another thing I want to mention while I've got everybody here who might be listening, because a lot of the people here are some of our, there are new members, there are new candidates. And so that's the majority of people that are here right now. But one of the things I want to say to you guys is that, you have to really be committed to this, because everybody will try to tear down your beliefs. Everybody will try to tear you apart. And if you don't have a real, genuine belief or have real, genuine experiences with Satan, it's very hard to stay on track, and it's very hard to stay committed because, again, we're all geographically separated. We're all struggling on our own path, and we've got nothing helping us because we've got no church, no established church building to go to. We don't have the benefit of having it easy like the Christians do, where they have a Bible that spells it out for them, everything they think or everything they feel. They don't have a minister sitting there 2 times or 3 times a week telling them what to think. So we have to really have a strong faith within ourselves. So I will say it's hard, but it's rewarding. It is. I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change my religion for anything. I've dedicated my entire life to this. And I think if you approach it from with a genuine heart, and you believe in the demonic gods, you'll find that it's one of the most beautiful religions you could ever be a part of. Anyway, go ahead, Julia, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next question we have on the list is one that I think you get asked quite frequently, which is, can you still be a Satanist even if you were baptized in a Catholic church from birth? And I mean, that can vary. Some people will ask if you were, if you grew up in a Muslim family or any sort of denomination of Christian. But the answer, long and short, is that yes, absolutely. There is nothing that says you can't look at the way you were raised and say, this is not right, I don't agree with this, this is not my path. And I think the ability to do that is part of what is important in making someone a Satanist. So yes, absolutely, you can still be a Satanist if you were baptized into a different religion. It's just a matter of how you choose to cleanse yourself of that past association.
Yeah, and I think what I always tell people is Satan is a forgiving God, and people don't think so. But one of the things I've heard from people, there's a couple of things that are consistent about Satan. Number one, he is a compassionate God, contrary to what people think. He can be kind and understanding. He is a forgiving God as long as you're genuinely sorry about what you've done. And so if you started out as a Christian, didn't know any better, or genuinely believed in it and realized you were wrong and you wronged him, you had the wrong impression about him. As long as you genuinely reject it, Satan tends to help people and guide people if it's a genuine rejection of Christianity. So I don't think your past religious affiliations necessarily are held against you by the spirits, as far as I can tell from my experience over the years. But another thing that I will say that I've heard over and over again from countless people is that Satan actually answers prayers. The demons answer prayers, you know, and I can say without any hesitation that I've found that to be the case. He will respond, unlike many of the other deities from the other faiths. At least that's been my experience. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, I will say that before we move on, that is an interesting thing I found about things like Satanism and even some of the other pagan religions, is there is a much more, I don't know what the word would really be, but like almost a deeper, more personal relationship between the followers and the gods. Because in Abrahamic religions, it very much seems like there's this massive space where you're removed from your deities and you're kind of just the little people in the church. Whereas I suppose it's the difference between being one person in a huge cathedral and one person dancing around a bonfire. There's just this more sort of intimate connection. It's just something that I think is interesting when it comes to the differences between those. The second to last question that we have on here is one for you, and that's what are your thoughts about the Yazidis?
Okay. Well, I will just say that, you know, these Yazidis, there's a lot of controversy about them. Their religion is, they have differences of opinion within their own religion, even within their own followers. They don't agree on everything. There's some people that believe that you shouldn't eat lettuce because it sounds too much like a name for Satan. There's people that believe you should worship the gods in a specific way, or Satan in a specific way. There are some that believe he's the Christian devil. There are some that say he's not. So even within the small Yazidi community, they don't agree on what the religion is. And in fact, I just saw a video the other day of a guy talking about the Yazidis, and he was saying that the Yazidis cannot read or write, so they don't have a sacred text. That's true and not true at the same time, because there were people that went in and interviewed them in the 1800s, I believe it was, or the 1900s, and basically got them to talk about what they believe, and also showed them some of their whatever sacred texts they have. And so they were able to create what we have now as the algebra. Now, how accurate that is up for debate, and that's a whole different lecture all by itself. And but I believe they do worship the devil, but they don't worship him as an evil deity. They see him as the creator God's most sacred angel, and that the devil is in control of this earth while we're on earth, and that's why they worship him. And they believe that when they die, they'll worship Allah or the creator God or whatever, they'll be with him. But as long as they're on this earth, they're supposed to honor Electeus, you know, and that's what they do. But like I said, there's so much debate. It's a subject that you really have to study, and even when you study it, scholars disagree about almost everything about the Yazidi religion. But that's just a general overview of it.
Okay, excellent. I think the last question that we're going to just touch on before we go to the comments is, I think it's important to restate this every once in a while. What's the ultimate goal as Devil's Mark Ministries as an organization, as a ministry, which is basically to create community, to promote devil worship as a serious faith rather than just something that people play around with, to give people a serious place to worship with a group which is a safe space for them if that's something that they want, and basically just to provide assistance and religious services to the Satanic and Diabolist community.
Yeah, I would say that, we really, what we're trying to do is give people a place where they can associate with other people that actually worship the devil. That's the biggest thing. And give them that community and give them a place where they don't have to worry about, are these people trying to take advantage of me? Or are they going to hurt me? Or can I come and can I just worship and can I have fellowship with other people that believe in the same things I believe in? And we want people in this ministry that care about building that community, that want to help people, that genuinely believe in Satan and want to give people a welcoming place where they can feel safe. And that's what we want to do. So if you're one of those people and you're listening to this, or even to our newer members, if that's what you're passionate about, then we encourage you to get involved. In fact, one of the jokes that we have that Julia came up with is, in this ministry, we don't want lurkers, we want workers. Because I was telling her, I don't want people in our groups, in our Facebook groups, that just sit there and just kind of sit quietly and lurk and observe. I want people that are passionate about this, that are fired up about this, that want to change the world and want to give a voice to religious Satanists. And I want to be an organization that opposes atheistic Satanism. I want to be an alternative voice to the Church of Satan and to the Satanic Temple. I'm tired of them speaking for all of us and speaking like they're the only ones that exist. They didn't create Satanism. They don't speak for Satanism, and they never have spoken for Satanism. And I will point this out as well. In all the history of Satanism and traditional witchcraft and witchcraft that was devoted to the devil, there has never been one universally accepted church, one universally accepted holy text, one universally accepted, credo. So Satanism has always allowed for individual practice, and the beliefs of each individual group have varied from country to country and individual to individual and group to group. And anybody who tells you they have the right to speak universally for all of Satanism or all Satanists is somebody who's full of shit, just to put it bluntly. And anybody who tells you that is lying to you. I mean, I could be nice about it, but I'm just telling you like it is. There are a lot of people that talk a lot of shit in this religion, talk a lot of shit about stuff they don't know anything about. And I'm just fed up with it myself personally. I don't know how you guys feel, but I hope that we can be an alternative voice to that stuff. And we will never tell you that our way is the only way or the true way. It's just one way. And if you agree with it, help us. If you don't, good, better luck somewhere else. Go find somewhere else that's more appropriate for you. That's fine with us. We want people here who are passionate about what we do. Anyway, I think that's the final question, right?
Yes, that's the final question that we have on our pre-recorded list. There are a couple in the chat that I wanted to address. One of them was from Marie, asking if we could speak about doing pacts or dedications for other people. This was something that came up when we were talking about the baptizing of children. And so I'm assuming this is more about like doing pacts or dedication for others with their consent, with a bit of their participation. And I mean, I would assume this is not something I'm an expert in at all. But what I would assume is that as long as you have everybody's consent that's involved and the person is like involved in the process, not just sitting back on their heels and watching things happen, I would think it wouldn't be my cup of tea, but I wouldn't necessarily look down on anyone who does it. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one of the things that you'll notice consistently about once you get more involved in Devil's Mark Ministries is that we are constantly asking, do you do this of your own free will? Have you been coerced? Do you say before Satan that this is your own free choice? That kind of stuff. You always hear that in our rituals at some point. And the reason for that is because we want people to have an opportunity to say, no, I don't feel like I'm doing this of my own free will. They have to do it of their own free will. Based on my experience as a Satanist for over 40 years, I believe that Satan looks very unkindly on people that coerce people into serving him, and he will not accept their offerings or whatever He will not accept their pacts. So as long as they're doing it of their own free will and they affirm that, then you can provide whatever services you want for them, do dedications for them or whatever, but they have to be old enough to know what they're doing and do it of their own free will. And anybody who coerces anybody into doing anything like that is doing something that is completely contrary to what Satanism is all about. And I believe there will be ramifications for that from Satan himself. That's my opinion anyway, based on what I've learned over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Okay, so I think there's just one more that I'll pull from the chat here, which is an interesting one. Is there an unholy order for people who wish to become satanic nuns? I wish there was. I don't think there's anything so organized that exists anywhere within Satanism. Even, well, I mean, obviously, Church of Satan doesn't really have a clergy system like that, but then they wouldn't really have need for one necessarily, not an official one beyond titles, I would think.
If we had the money and the resources, I would start a monastic sect for people who wanted to approach it that way. Because I've always thought, it'd be nice to devote yourself 100% and be able to live in a sort of monastic, sort of convent sort of way if you chose to. If I had the money, I would develop that. But to be honest, folks, to run something like that, it takes so much goddamn money, and Satanists are not the most how do we want to put this nicely? Let's just say they're not people that are very free with the donations. They want to know what everything costs, and they want to get the most money for their buck. So they're not going to just throw money at a big project like that, generally speaking. That's been my experience, but I wish they were, because I would love to see that happen. And I'd be the first one to sign up to live there, I think, because I really do wish I could dedicate my entire life and every moment to this, because that's how much I believe in it. And I would definitely join a monastic order if they had one.
That would cause all kinds of stir. You see how much of a hullabaloo the TST caused with their SatanCon. Just imagine somebody opening up a satanic monastery.
Yeah. And they'd be like, "You're being a reverse Christian because you opened up a monastery." We're just calling it that because that's the name that people recognize. Just because you choose to dedicate your life to your God doesn't make you a reverse Christian, you moron.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. A lot of the sort of the Christian language sneaks in there when
Well, sometimes it's the only language that we have.
Well, yes. Yeah, exactly. Like no matter who you see Satan as a whole, the concept of the devil, as in Christianity, is a concept that's very tied in with Christianity. I mean, there's no two ways about it.
Well,
it's just that's not the whole story.
One of the things I want to say to everybody here too is you'll hear me say things like, I serve the kingdom. You'll hear our rituals say, we hope we bring glory to the kingdom. And people go, see, that's proof that you're reverse Christians. No, dummy. It's not proof that we're reverse Christians, because Zeus was called the king of the gods. Odin was called the king of the gods. In order to be the king of the gods, you have to have a what? Everybody say it with me. Everybody that's educated, you have to have a kingdom. So there's no way in the world that the use of the term kingdom is Christianity. Oh, and just as a little added note, confession is not even Christian in origin. The idea of confessing your sins before the gods were done by the Aztecs and Mayans and the Mesoamericans. Bet you didn't know that, right? But Christianity invented confession, according to a lot of Satanists. Like I said, there are a lot of people out there who talk a lot of shit, who don't know what they're talking about. Be careful who you listen to, ladies and gentlemen, because some of them are morons. Okay? I know that's not politically correct, but you're starting to see the real Nero now when I'm starting to get annoyed. And this is the real me, so I hope y'all can handle it. I know that we have one person that's an Australian, so I know Australians speak plainly and they tend to say what they mean. So I know she'll appreciate that, because I've only known a few Australians. I've known 3 of them in my lifetime, and they're all plain spoken people that like you to say it like it is. So I'm sure she'll appreciate it. Anyway,
We encourage calling a spade a spade.
yes. All right. Is that it? Is that all the questions?
I think so. Now, I think there was one thing that you wanted to bring up. I'm not sure whether it was based on a question that you'd got or whether it was just something that you wanted to bring up because you thought it was important to mention. But I remember that you did say that there was something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, there is something I really want to talk about. It's not so much a question, but I got an email right before this um, event, and I'm just out of respect for the person, I'm not going to bring up who it was or whatever. And it really disturbed me a bit because it brought up a point that I think is important to bring up in this beginning, you know, outreach, and that is, they wrote to me and they said, I see all these people talking about the only way to truly worship Satan is through the glory of death and through death and suicide and stuff like that. Just crazy stuff. And seeing pictures of people smearing blood on themselves, talking about, you know, we want to worship you through death and blood and all this stuff. And they said to me, um, you know, I'm not sure I'm a Satanist because I don't believe in that kind of stuff. I don't believe in glorifying Satan through death and self-destruction. Maybe I'm not a Satanist. And I want to say something to you right now, to everyone. There are a lot of people in this religion that are playing devil worship. They're playing Satanism. They go out and put their offerings online. They go out and try to be as edgy as possible. And they try to act like anybody who doesn't agree with them is a real Satanist. Well, I've got news for you. I don't believe any of these people have communicated with demons. I don't believe any of these people have successfully practiced magic. I believe a lot of them are full of shit. And and if you let those people acting stupid just to get attention derail your relationship with Satan, that's an issue that you need to think about. But just understand that there are people playing at being edgy every day. I've been in this since 1982, 83, and I was raised in the heart of the satanic panic. I've seen this shit my entire life. Most of these people that go around cutting themselves and trying to act all dark, and they either end up two things that end up happening. They end up leaving Satanism, end up becoming a Christian, or end up not being a believer, or they end up in jail. They're not real Satanists. I'm sorry, but if all you think Satanism is death and destruction, you don't know a goddamn thing about the demons. The demons are honorable entities. They are they believe in keeping oaths and they believe in being honorable entities. And this childish, babyish nonsense saying that it's done in their name is the most fake bullshit I've ever seen in my life. And I just won't tolerate it because it's a lie, and they deserve better than that. They deserve people with more honor and integrity than that. And I'm not saying giving your blood is not an appropriate offering in some cases, but the way that these people handle it, making people doubt their faith in Satan because and telling them that they're not a Satanist if they don't believe in self-destruction, they should be ashamed of themselves because they're actually turning people away from Satanism. It's just like when I was younger, I used to, especially when the internet was new and there wasn't as many people to talk to, I used to get emails from, especially from young women who would write to me and say, I was really dedicated to Satan at different parts of times in my life, but I ran across someone who actually, raped me or molested me as part of a ritual and forced me to do sexual stuff against my will, and it turned me away from Satanism entirely. And see, that's what I'm talking about. Here's somebody who's manipulating somebody and basically coming between them and Satan by abusing them sexually. And it changes their whole devotion to Satan because somebody chose to abuse them. That is not Satanism. If what you do as a minister causes people to doubt their belief in Satan, you're no minister and you need to get the fuck out of our religion right now. And I hope the satanic community will start standing up against people like that and say these people are frauds and call them out for what they are and let people know. That's why we want people to let us know when people are doing something wrong. Let us know so we can warn people about it. That's what a true minister does. They say, look, these people are bad people. Do not get involved with them. But that doesn't mean I want to say something else about that before I move off the subject. That doesn't mean that just because you disagree with someone that you start, saying bad things about them. Because what happens in this religion too is people will hear a rumor about someone and they'll start spreading that rumor like it's a fact, or they'll start having personal attacks on that person. Like I've seen people who will talk about, well, their mom's ugly, their kids are ugly, or the kids are in jail. They'll start attacking them and saying stuff about their appearance or their children and stuff like that. Don't do that. If you have a problem with somebody and their religion, debate them on their religion, debate them on the issues. Don't attack them on a personal level. I don't do that. I don't sit there and talk about people's kids or their dog or their family. If I have a problem with somebody, I keep it on religious basis. I don't talk about them as individuals. If you don't have a strong enough grasp of the subject that you can't debate somebody without making it personal about their children or their family, then you're no fucking Satanist. Get the fuck out of here. That's what I have to say about it. I hope I'm not offending anybody, but somebody needs to say it because nobody else is saying it. All right. Anyway, next, anything else?
I think that is about it for the questions that we've got. Anyone who is watching who wants to put in a question right at the very end, you are quite welcome to. If you don't have anything to say here, but you come up with something later, you're always welcome to message us on Facebook or send us an email, contact us on any of our social media accounts. We do keep an eye on all of them. So just reach out if you've got something to say to us, or if you're interested in learning more about the ministry.
Yeah. And if there's something we haven't answered that you really, really want us to answer, remember we do this every other week at 4:30 Central, so you can always come back and we'll be here. And for all of our candidates that came out and supported us, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you taking the time to support your ministry, and we hope that you will continue to do that. And we appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of this and for choosing to be a member of Devil's Mark Ministries. We don't take anything for granted.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you everybody for all your help and all your support with all of this and all your participation, and for everyone who keeps the chat going. It's really important to us that we get engagement with this. So yes, thank you for everyone who is here and continues to watch and keep in tune and support us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We'll see you next time, guys. Take care. Okay.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye now.
Bye-bye.